Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. I am your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a freaking killer show that is led by a very good friend of this community, a very good friend of the show who is here with us today as a guest. Skullzi TV dropped a monster video the other day. So good, folks, that I watched it twice. And of course, he's going to be talking about how he has put one and one together to make two. And that means, based on his video, that there could very well be a Starfield MMO coming in the future. Now, that doesn't mean day and date release this year at 11/11/22 when Starfield launches its single player campaign. But he did have a lot of evidence and he has a lot of theories. And again, folks, don't get all in your feels. It is complete speculation, but the evidence that he put forth really made me think that this would be a big move and probably a move that we can expect simply because we saw what happened with Fallout 76. It did not launch well, but my God, people are enjoying that game, and Starfield is a new IP. And we're going to get into that. We're also going to get into why I think and why I've been banging this drum. Microsoft needs their own kart racer. I know that for a lot of people that, you could care less about the Mario Karts of the world and the Crash Team Racing and even the Sonic Racing, which I've been playing all weekend with my nephew. But I just think for Microsoft's Xbox Game Pass portfolio, it is missing some things. It's missing the family-friendly platforms. It's missing the fighting genre, which they own, Killer Instinct's IP, and we're still waiting on who's doing that. Is it Bandai Namco? Is it NetherRealm? Well, we don't know. But the other thing they're missing, and could very well be huge for them, is a kart racer. I mean, they have the IPs, they have the developers, and they have the characters in an abundance to really deliver something special. We're going to get into that. We're also going to break down, my God, May for Xbox Game Pass. It's just ridiculous. But let's get into the introductions first. Skullzi TV. You're reprising your role. You've been on this show. I think this is your third time. Welcome back, brother. I see the beard is growing. I think the next time we see you, it's going to be very long.
It could be. It grows super fast. I was originally going to hold out on shaving it until The Elder Scrolls 6 came out, but I didn't want to look like Father Time. but I appreciate being on here again. You guys are awesome. It should be an exciting show. Always down to talk some Xbox and, of course, some Starfield.
Yeah, dude. Well, it's great to have you, and we definitely appreciate you dropping your knowledge here today, because obviously you are someone that I consider a trusted source. And I have used some of your videos in a lot of the shows that I've done before, and a lot of the stuff you've talked about has come to fruition. So you have a very good track record. And again, it's great to have you a part of the show. But welcoming back someone that is not only a podcaster, not only a community member extraordinaire, not only is he growing his own beard, but he's a freaking game developer. That's right, Zemi Games. What's going on, brother? How the hell are you?
Yeah, just speaking of beards, I'm growing mine too. Just want to let everyone know. No, I'm joking. No, man, I'm doing fantastic. I've been staying pretty busy trying to find time to play games. Here recently, I've jumped back into Fallout 4.
Nice.
Yeah, I've been
Excellent.
playing the crap out of that. Let me tell you, it's a lot of fun. Which I've played it, I mean, for a ridiculous amount of time, even before jumping back into it. But yeah, so I've been having a lot of fun with that, and yeah, I've just been continuing to work, all that different stuff. But thank you so much, man, for throwing out the invite and letting me hop on the show today.
Yeah, dude. Well, we were talking Starfield, so it was like, the left shoe goes on the left foot, so you had to be here. Mav, what's going on, brother? Welcome back to the program. You have been busy as H. How are you?
Pretty good, man. I'm glad I was able to be here today. Got Skullzi here. We know we're gonna get lots of awesome God Howard talk and BGS talk.
Don't you feel bad for Pong? I mean, the one guy that you wanted here today so he can appreciate Skullzi being here, and we're having a whole monster topic on Starfield with some new news potentially. I hope he's listening. Pong, we miss you, brother.
Yeah, 100%. Pong, I'm gonna ask all the questions that you would have. Okay.
So you're going to speak for Pong is going to speak through you, basically.
Yeah,
I love it.
100%.
Josh, what's going on, brother? You know, like everyone else on this panel, have an expertise when it comes to kart racing games. So your opinion is going to be extremely looked upon. How are you, man?
You know, I could not be better. I was running a little bit late because I spent a little extra time at the gym this morning, and I was
Excellent.
like,
That's always
I can't,
good.
I can't get this last set in. I gotta go. And so here we are. I'm excited to talk about all the topics today. As always, love being here. Appreciate all you guys so much. So thank you.
Yeah, well, listen, dude, it's we definitely appreciate you being here. And last and no way least, someone that has missed last week because of personal, family stuff, which obviously family first. That's the grounds this podcast was built on. It's great to have him back. What's going on, VJ? How the heck are you?
I'm good, Boom. Thanks for having me back on the show, and I'm looking forward to today's topics. Yeah, so back over to you, Boom.
Well, listen, let's jump right into it, ladies and gentlemen. What am I talking about? Let's talk Xbox Game Pass for a hot second. And the reason why we're going to talk about Xbox Game Pass is May's stacked lineup has been announced, and it is just unbelievable. And I'm going to give you the dates and, of course, the titles, and some of them are pretty big bombs in there. Loot River starts us off on May 3rd. Citizen Sleeper is coming May 5th. Trek to Yomi, which obviously is up for preload, and that game looks like it's going to be one of those titles that are talked about at the end of the year for potential indie game of the year. We also have the Euden Chronicles Rising. Now, that's a JRPG from what I understand, and that is May 5th. May 10th. Headspace Shipbreaker, that's going to Game Pass PC. That's May 24th. Sniper Elite 5, the sequel to the long-running series, comes to console and PC for May 26th. And rounding out the incredible lineup is Pac-Man Museum Plus. That's coming May 27th. And again, that's just the start of it, because we're already getting, thanks to Pong, who posted something from Idle Sloth, a good friend of this program who's probably listening right now. It has been confirmed that Match Point Tennis Championships is coming to Xbox Game Pass in July, specifically July 7th. That is day and date. And if you didn't know, 7 Days to Die just launched on Xbox Game Pass this morning. I loaded it up. I started playing it. It's a survival horror type of game. It's a survival game. It's like with a zombie apocalypse, and you got to do resources and things of that nature. It looks really cool. Like I said, I literally just started it before the show, so that's in Xbox Game Pass. And this is the service, Skullzi, that just does not quit. And what's interesting and what seems to be the real talking point here is, if you look at what Xbox has done in 2022 regarding its first party, it's been very light. There's a reason for it. It's going to be very heavy at the end of the year, very similar to 2021. But somehow or another, they won MPD for the first quarter of the year. The Xbox is the best-selling console as well as the most money made. And that's when you factor in Xbox Game Pass, and what they continue to do, they're doing it smart. They're dropping single and AA games in an abundance, giving people a lot of things to play while we wait to the end of the year for Redfall and Forza Motorsport, and of course Starfield, and obviously in September we're getting Deathloop. And we again, I still think that, and Boxenberger, who's not here today because he had a work situation, we still think Wolfenstein is coming, the Wolfenstein 3. When you see this lineup for May, what are your thoughts on this? They just continue to give to the fan.
Yeah, Game Pass actually is a big surprise to me. I've tried the Origin subscription before. I've tried a lot of those, and Game Pass just has the most value by far. And it sounds like I'm trying to be an Xbox fanboy when I say this, but it's true. It's just very true. Actually, one of the things that a personal story of mine that I attribute it to is when I grew up in Chicago, and I knew the manager of the Blockbuster, and there was a lot of video game rental places at that time around this area. And one thing he did is he would allow people that he knew, this probably wasn't legal back then, but he would let you pay like a monthly, like $50, and you can rent any game you want as much as you want. Basically through the Blockbuster. And I was like, dude, this should be something that's like game companies do. And this was back in like the 90s. So this is different times than now. But it's almost like I kind of got a visual into the success metrics that literally Game Pass is enjoying now. Game Pass is, you brought up a great point with indie games. Not only do you get access to indie games and games you might not otherwise have tried, which is great for any developers. It gets them attention, it gets them hype, and it gets them more eyes on their products. But at the same time, you get these AAA games too. Like, for instance, all the Bethesda Game Studios games and other Bethesda games are going to be on there. So it's just such a complete palette of gaming that I haven't had as much fun in a long time since I started getting Game Pass. It's like anytime I'm bored with something, Game Pass has an answer. And it's just great. And another thing with Game Pass is I'm an achievement junkie, so I love getting those achievement points.
What's your gamer score? Speaking of which,
okay, that's an interesting situation. So ever since the first Xbox 360 came out, I had a gamer tag called The Stranger, and I had over 100,000 gamer points on that. But
nice,
my 360 died, and when I got my Xbox One later on, I couldn't access my old account. So I'm kind of starting back up all over again now. So it's pretty small. Oh yeah, it is. Especially for someone that loves those achievement points. So it's only like 10,000 something now. It's nothing to brag home about, but I'm rebuilding with the Game Pass all of those achievement points instead of having to buy all the other games. So it's for that reason, it's also a great value. Game Pass is just all around an anomaly, I think, because when you think of this kind of service, like let's say 2 years ago, people inherently in the gaming industry, in terms of the consumers, don't generally like to hear about things that seem like they're focused on monetization practices or subscription factors. But somehow Game Pass is the exception to where people love it, except for those on the opposite side of the fence that aren't big Xbox fans.
Yeah,
but you can see the immediate change it's actually having in the gaming industry, because Sony now has to kind of match Game Pass, at least in terms of a service. It might not be it's not the exact same thing. But no, Game Pass is a game changer for sure. And I think we have just seen the very beginning of its influence. Even though it has a lot of influence now and a lot of success, it's going to change the industry even more so than we think, just in terms of digital content, access to just a wide variety of games. It's a great thing. I love Game Pass, and coming up like 7 Days to Die, I have over 1,000 hours in 7 Days to Die.
So yeah, it originally launched in 2016 on PC.
Yeah, I've played it off and on ever since the original launch. So now that it's on Game Pass, I can actually play with friends who have it on Xbox or have it on Game Pass, as opposed to people who only had it on Steam. So that alone is going to get me interested in the game that I've already played a bunch of, and now I'm going to play it again because it's on Game Pass. So,
and you can get your achievements, which is awesome.
Yes, exactly.
Zemi, you're not playing 7 Days to Die. I can guarantee it. But let's talk about Xbox Game Pass. The May's lineup has some big bangers in there. One of which is the JRPG, something that people have been clamoring for quite some time, and Microsoft is listening. And again, this is just what they've announced. We've known that Microsoft is constantly adding to Xbox Game Pass, but more so than taking out. And there's a chance that we could get a couple of big ones. But Trek to Yomi, I think it's Yomi or Yumi, is to me is the star. I don't know if you got a chance to see the trailer. That game looks absolutely stunning. I cannot wait to get my hands. It's already preloaded on my Xbox, which I love about when go to Game Pass and says, "Hey, preload it." You put it in there. What are your thoughts on the lineup for May?
I think it looks good. I think that they made it Trek to Yumi way like the whole pre-install thing. I think they came out with that way too soon, because I've been just like staring at it. I also have it pre-installed and I've just been staring at it like, oh, can I play that yet? And it's like, no, I can't. I'm really, really excited out of that. I agree with you. I think that Trek to Yumi is at least for me the one that really stands out the most and gets me the most excited to play it. I really like, you know, the whole black and white samurai Japanese, you know, kind of feeling game. Very much reminds me of like the older like movies that came out long time ago. But I think Sniper Elite 5 looks really, really good as well. So I'm excited to be able to jump into that. I don't play a lot of the Sniper Elite games, but I played Sniper Elite V2 that came out like a few years ago. It was like a remastered, and I had a lot of fun with that. So I'm probably going to jump into to this newest one that's coming into Game Pass. And then the Pac-Man Museum probably will jump into that as well.
I'm old, folks. You got to understand. I played Pac-Man in the arcades. As a matter of fact, there's one that's a part of this collection, very rare. Josh would know this because he's old like me. Is Super Pac-Man. A lot of people never even played that. Like when you eat the pellet, you get like takes up the whole screen. I can't wait for that collection. And in Game Pass day and date. That's awesome.
Now, like all the other games, like I'm not really sure. I haven't actually really ever heard of them or like looked them up. I'm sure they're good games. But for me personally, those three that I mentioned are probably the ones that I am most excited to jump into, download, and try out and play and so on and so forth. But man, I mean, just the value of Game Pass, doesn't end, and it's great to see that they're continuing to support the service, coming out with new games, especially early on in the year, like we're currently at, where a lot of big games aren't coming out, and everything's a little bit more dry where gaming is concerned. So yeah, super excited. The games look great, and I'm definitely going to be jumping into Trek to Yumi as soon as that launches. Yeah,
absolutely. Real quick before we get into what Mav has to say, Drawn TJ drops not one but two super chats. The first one of $10, very generous. Drawn TJ, thank you. He says, "Hi guys, it's awesome catching you guys live. Everyone, please hit the like button for Boom." Yes, I definitely appreciate that. And we got over 200 people here. Please consider hitting the like button. And if you're new, of course, consider subscribing to the channel. And Drawn TJ drops an additional $5 super chat and says, "Where is Exo Mecha and Scorn?" Scorn is coming in October, if I'm not mistaken. And I think Exo Mecha has been delayed until next year. I'm pretty sure of that. So that's that. But thank you so much for the generosity. Mav, let's get your opinion on this, brother. Again, just Game Pass continuing to add to the backlog that gets bigger and bigger and bigger with each month. What are your thoughts on what's coming in May?
Yeah, I can't catch up, man. It's crazy. It's going to be a big month. It's not the biggest, right? I think the biggest probably going to be later in summer, later, maybe early fall. You're going to have some more surprises. But, Sniper Elite 5 is no slouch. I think it's really good for the Rebellion to get their games into Game Pass because they're a team that has been underappreciated, I believe, with some really high quality games that kind of get overlooked. They're not janky, they run well, they play really well, they have good multiplayer. I played a lot of Zombie Army, which was my first game really to get into from them, and that was, I believe, because of Game Pass, and it's just easy to hop in and play with friends and stuff. So I'm actually really looking to Sniper Elite 5. Eiyuden Chronicles Rising, is a big one. It's kind of got that Suikoden feel to it, right?
Well, it's the kind of game people have been clamoring for. There is it may not be the largest subset on the community, Mav, regarding the people who appreciate JRPGs, but there is a subset that appreciates it, and that's a big one.
It takes games like this hitting a service and coming out on the platform though to grow that base, right? Where it's been there for PlayStation, it's been there for Nintendo since like the early days, but Xbox has kind of like been hit or miss always. And unless these things come out consistently, then it's not going to develop the base that you have on other platforms. In fact, people are just going to choose to play on the other platforms because that's where those games exist. So the more that these games keep coming out on the platform, the base will grow for those games on here as well. So I think it's awesome. Loot River is one that stood out in the indie game showcases as
Yep.
well. I remember that last year and I was like, whoa, that caught our eye. It looked really good. But, honestly, the one I'm most excited about out of the whole list is Trek to Yomi. Just because it stood out the most. It looks beautiful.
That's a stunning
got
looking game, dude. Like
it's got the
honestly, it's a stunner.
samurais,
Yeah.
like the whole just something about that game looks kind of special. So I'm really waiting for that. But yeah, it's a good month. Another good month for Game Pass. We really had a bad month
Not
in like
really.
over a year. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It just kind of seems like par for the course now. I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't something else that was a surprise throughout the month as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
'Cause that
I'm
kind of tends
expecting
to
a couple
happen.
of extra ones. I mean, definitely Game of the Year, Bug Snacks is coming,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's been confirmed. So, Truck to Yumi, who Bug Snacks Game of the Year. Cannot wait to play that. Josh, let's bring you in on the conversation. What are your thoughts on May, man? I mean, this is just again, it's just one of those things. Look, folks, I don't get paid every time I say Game Pass. I wish I did. I don't. But I can't tell you to get Game Pass. I can tell you that if you are a budgeted gamer, and that's what I've become because I'm retired, right? Everyone knows that. And your money, you have to be, you have to be smart. You can't just buy everything that falls out. Not everything falls into Game Pass. Having Game Pass allows me to play as many games as I want, still be a part of the conversation, and actually go out and buy the ones I want to buy. And May's another month that is just packed with bangers, bro. What do you think?
I'm going to start with this. You guys have been talking about Trek, right? And I don't know if you guys saw the Sonic announcement and the way you have to buy like 18 different versions to get the full game. And then Devolver Digital put out a graphic.
I saw that, dude. It was great. It was great. Yeah.
It was so good. Like so good. They have no chill and I'm here for it. I mean, I'll be honest, my gaming time has been so slim as of recent. Like I try to get in Halo and I play a lot of Mario Kart right now. I'm making a big push on Twitch to go for partner. And so a lot of my focus has been growing a community around Mario Kart because I can have so many people play. That being said, I have been a subscriber of Game Pass since it launched, and I will be until it's no longer a thing, if that ever happens. So I actually feel bad. I feel like I need to have conversations with my Series X, and I'm like, look, like I feel like I haven't been faithful, and like, but at the same time, I'm here for it, right? I love seeing these games come to Game Pass, and I'm just like, I know there's a lot of people that are enjoying this. I know there's a lot of people that are achievement hunting, or I had somebody in my Discord, lady, a good, she's been in a few of the shows, knows Mav and stuff.
Yeah.
She was posting in my Discord this morning talking about some kind of like turnip boy commits tax fraud or something like that. Like,
yeah, it's
like
in there now. Yeah.
and that's on there, so like I love that there's just like that option to be like, it's like having Netflix, like, oh, hey, go check out this new series or whatever. And the support that it gives the devs. Like I work for a company that helps devs make games faster, and Game Pass is just such a beautiful thing that like I'm here to support it because I know it's supporting the creators of these games.
Yeah, no, 100%. Real quick, Smokey, good friend of the show. He's always here. He says something very interesting, and I think he's onto something. He says Evil Dead is in May, and I have no doubt that they're going to try to get that into Xbox game. It's a multiplayer game. Why? It literally says Xbox Game Pass on it. It's a budgeted game. It's perfect. It's a AA game. It needs a multiplayer audience, and if you can drop that into Xbox Game Pass and then have Sarah Bond drop a big bag of money off to the developer, it's a win-win scenario. And I think that they might be holding that to kind of, drop that right before, I don't know when in May it comes out, but if it's closer to June is supposed to be the month that Sony starts their service. It's been announced. And it's rolling. I think it's dropping in Japan first, and then we get it a week later, and then it rolls out to other areas. So it would be a big push for Xbox Game Pass. Say, hey, just before Sony does something, boom, here you go. Here's Evil Dead. So yeah, good stuff, Josh. And bringing us around to the final point of the first topic, VJ. I mean, obviously, you play a lot of Xbox, and you've talked about Xbox Game Pass specifically multiple times. What are your thoughts on May's lineup, dude?
I think the panel's done a decent job of covering the May lineup. So, just to sort of reiterate my take on Game Pass, which you know very well, Boom. Subscription-based business models should be, from my observation, and obviously my observation is limited, right? I don't see all or prevail. So I just feel that subscription-based business models should be a close and symbiotic relationship between content provider and consumer. And especially, I think, when it comes to gamers and perhaps TV show viewers, it's completely different from yesteryear, right? In where you go and buy a system, and publishers, hundreds of publishers invest in making a game and hoping that consumers will pick and choose the content that you produce. And as you know, and what the panel knows, and even the audience in the chat know, that there's no guarantees, and many publishers have fallen into the pit of despair, never to be seen again. And if you take Game Pass, if you take 20 or 30 million gamers or subscribers in terms of Game Pass subscription members, all contributing potentially $15 a month, it generates a considerable amount of cash flow and funds. And there's no qualms about it, right? You just do the maths for yourselves. You don't need me to do it. So, and the way I see the relationship, and I've talked about this before, Boom, and it may have been very early on when I first joined your show, and big mistake, Boom. But anyway, I think we entrust Xbox as trustees, how can I put it, executors or custodians, right? To use very public funding to maintain and grow how can I put it, the level of quality and variety in a I would say an evolving ecosystem, and of course, as I like to call it, a revolving digital buffet of software offerings, right? So it's always up to the community to keep Xbox in check, and I think the community is growing, right? I don't go onto Twitter very often, but I see many new people purchasing Xboxes or new to the community just by the date that they've joined Twitter, and as I say, I think it's up to the community to keep Xbox in check and developers on their toes. So in terms of being creative and reciprocal, and to sort of create a reciprocal and beneficial relationship for everybody involved, right? We all need each other. That's why these podcasts and the panel members that you have on, and who are also creators and so on and so forth, are so important to the community. And at the end of the day, there's lots of games coming in and out of Game Pass. And I agree that not every game is for everyone, but there is always something in Game Pass for everyone. And for me, it's long may it continue, as it certainly fits my budget and the budget of many people around the world, especially when you consider almost 15 to 20% of the American population live below the poverty line. So
that is correct, sir. That's a great point.
Without a scintilla of a doubt, Game Pass is a fantastic and a very welcome option, especially for me personally, and I can only really speak for myself. And that's my take on it, Ben.
No, I mean, that's good stuff. Again, we're here, we're having fun, right? We have almost 300 people here, and it's great, and we're having a great time. Everyone here is a content creator of some sorts, but you know what? We have to sometimes take a pause and look at reality, look at real life. And right now, it's tough in this country. I talk about how expensive it is here living in specifically New York. I don't live in Manhattan. I live in New Rochelle, New York. So I'm upper Westchester. And it's expensive pretty much for everything. So when you talk about real life and you want to bring it down to a human level, which we all should, right? We have to take a step back and say, well, not everyone has spendable cash. Not everyone can afford to go out and buy every collector's edition that comes out or every game that comes out, because games come out every other week. There's a new game. And if you are able to do that, I'm not a hater. I'm a congratulations. Good on you. But for the most part, people are living on a budget. They have to pay their school loans. They have to send their kids to school. They have to pay the rent, the cable, the Con Ed, all the important stuff, and Game Pass. That aspect of Game Pass is completely overlooked in the conversation on how it allows people of every race, creed, color, sexual orientation, and religion that plays games to be a part of the conversation. And I think that is the most important aspect of Game Pass. Yeah, it's great that it has first-party games. It's great that we have so many games that my backlog, I'm 6 feet. My backlog is twice the size of me. And that's fun, and that's great. But the reality and the realism of the conversation is how someone who only can afford $15 a month can still be a part of the conversation of someone that can afford to spend $1,000 on games per month. And I love that. And I think that's incredibly important. But listen, folks, let's bring this back to fun. But before we do, Drawn TJ, who drops an additional very generous $5 super chat, says, hey, what's up, Mav? Do you guys think that we'll see Indiana Jones gameplay or Contraband in 3 to 4 years in development? I think we're going to get a lot of surprises at E3. Contraband for sure. I think that they've been working on that for a bit. And I think we're going to get some gameplay. Indiana Jones, I don't think so. And I'm going to say why. Anyone that knows God Howard, and everyone knows who God Howard is, he doesn't show until he's ready. And we've seen it with Fallout 4. We're going to see it this year with Starfield. And we're going to see with every game that man is involved in, he shows it when he's ready. And it comes out like that. 6 months later, he shows it in June. It's coming out in November. So that's what I think is going to happen with that. But Contraband, I think we're going to definitely see. But I do, Josh, my brother, Mr. Mario Kart himself, who's secretly on the Nintendo payroll, but not getting paid because Nintendo are cheap. I got to bring this up. And Zemi, I'm going to go to you next on this. This is a topic. This is one of those, hey, there's not a lot of news. Let's make an original topic to talk about because I had some personal fun this weekend with my nephew Tyler. We played Sonic the whole weekend, and one of the two of the games we played was Team Sonic Racing. Not that great. It certainly was a bit of a step down for me in regards to the one I'm going to talk about next, and that was, of course, Sonic Racing Transformed, which was amazing. And it's an Xbox 360 game. I'm still playing it. It's just amazing. But Josh, one of the things, and I know people from Xbox listen to the show. I've been told that both on the air by Larry Herb, who was a guest a couple of years ago, and I've been told that privately by many people in the industry. And I'm unbelievably humbled by that. I mean, we're only at 10,000 subs, and to be able to say that people from Redmond are listening to the show, that's something to really, tip your hat to. So I know that they're listening, or someone is listening. I have been very, very, very hard on the fact that Xbox Game Pass, which we just finished talking about, is missing big elements, huge elements to its roster. And a kart racing game almost seems like it's a no-brainer. And I say that with confidence because when you look at what Microsoft has in their arsenal, this isn't a new company that doesn't have the IPs. This isn't a small development house that doesn't have the developers and the creators to do this. But more importantly than the IPs, it's the characters within those IPs. They have, even without the Activision Blizzard characters, their roster is stacked. And to make a kart racer that has 12 to 15 different characters, like your Marcus Phoenix, your Master Chief, a racer, a random racer from Forza, you can have Doom Guy, you can have the Fallout Kid. I can go on and on with the characters. You can have Banjo-Kazooie, which why wouldn't you? You can have Conker, why wouldn't you? If you want to take a really deep cut, you can turn around and bring in Cameo, which is a fantastic rare game that no one even remembers. And more so than the characters, Josh, one of the things that makes the Mario Kart series iconic isn't Mario. or Luigi or Bowser or Toad. The characters are always going to be the characters. What makes those games iconic are the courses. And this is where Microsoft could really let their hair down. Could you imagine racing on a Halo ring, racing on the lava pits of Gears? A Forza track, one of the more popular ones, racing on the Hot Wheels track in Forza as a kart racer. I can go on and on. Josh, is this something that Microsoft needs to do?
Well, I mean, from a business perspective, Mario Kart has sold like 43 million copies on the Switch alone. It's almost a 50% install rate on
right, and almost 9 million on the Wii U. So again, let's just kind of just go back for a second there, Josh. Over 50 million copies between two consoles, two different generations. And right now, folks, if you didn't know, because I'm glad you brought that up, because I have the notes in front of me. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the #1 selling Switch game right now. Only second to that is Animal Crossing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a massive. Now, granted, there's brand behind it, right?
Of course there is.
Mario Kart is 30 years old this year. That's another factor. Came out in 92. And so there's a lot there. Now, I'm gonna backtrack a little bit on what you were saying, Boom, because we mentioned the Activision and the Activision acquisition, and Crash is the closest racing game to give to the closest kart racer to ever really give Mario Kart a run for its money, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right. And so they have a base there. That is a fantastic base. Now, once you and I was at the gym today, and I was thinking about this topic, and I was thinking about how we see Master Chief in Fortnite and the little I would love to see them get a little bit creative,
me too, man.
Where it looks like all of the characters are driving Power Wheels, more or less, and they're way too big for them. I think it could be fun. As you were talking about Doom Guy and some of the courses, if you play Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, there's like a Bowser's Castle level where there's this giant rock on fire lava Bowser that's punching the course as you go by. And now let's keep it kid friendly, but like a kid friendly demon or something in a Doom course that's smacking the track or whatever the case may be. I was also thinking about some of the weapons. Could you imagine driving by somebody and hitting them with a sticky nade, or tossing out the nades from Gears of War? Right? There's a lot of maybe the energy sword. We probably avoid chainsaws, but you never know. Maybe we could hit a tire or something. But Boom, you really got me thinking when you were talking about the different courses. How fun would it be if Halo was just a giant loop that we had to race all the way
around the ring,
and it was anti-grav like Mario Kart 8 has. Just really take it, take the time they need. Look, if once Activision is all said and done, take the base of Crash Team Racing, and throw all those IPs. I mean, you mentioned Fallout and all that. I'm thinking Skyrim. They could grab different essentially weapons, or a
Wolfenstein level.
Yeah, and then the different move sets that could come from each. You could use some kind of magic from, just depending on how they want to use it. Really make it more of an Xbox kart versus there's Mario Kart, but it's not necessarily Nintendo Kart. We've started to see it bleed over, but really make the Smash Bros of Mario Kart for the Xbox that just brings in
100%.
the whole team. And I think too, I mean, the things are changing, but Xbox also doesn't have the single IP that has that buying power that Mario does, right? They're lacking that. And so I think bringing all of that together into a kart racer that's going to that's going to be appealing to the older generation and the younger. Maybe they even work out something with Epic and get like Fortnite guy, like get Jonesy to race
Dude,
or something like that.
100%. Master Chief was in Fortnite. Why not get the lead character, the guy with the blonde hair that's in every ad? If you get him to be in there, listen, the potential for this to be something big is limitless. Now, again, who do you get, Josh? Because we know that Microsoft doesn't force their developers to do any specific games. You know, Phil's not walking down like Vince McMahon saying, "Hey, Mr. Developer, Mrs. Developer, you're working on this game, you're out." They allow people, so it would have to be a passion project. But I think that if you put an internal memo to all the studios, say, "Hey, listen, turn 10 folks, you guys make incredible games, playground games. This is what we're thinking. Could it work? Could you guys, would be considered doing it?" And you'd get a lot of people to be like, yeah, we can actually, we would love to do that, because again, IP in this particular conversation is key. And like all of the iconic Mario characters that I consider as big, potentially that to go shoulder to shoulder with Disney, Microsoft has in spades.
Yeah, and I'm seeing Def Leppard in chat saying the same thing, that you could have a kart style mode in Forza, and I to steal your words, Boom, I think you're onto something there, because what if the test for this was DLC instead of going full,
Dude, I don't care how we get it. I'm going to say something. I have another theory, Josh. But I want to bring this theory over to Skullzi TV, and then I will come back to you on this, Josh. Skullzi TV, we know that gaming at its core is a business, right? And to suggest anything else would be foolhardy. Now, one of the words, it's a dirty word, but I'm going to say it. It's my show, so I can say it, is games as a service. A lot of people hate that terminology. A lot of people don't like it. They feel that it's mucked up the industry. I disagree, because I think that it gives games life. It gives titles a chance to grow and garner an audience that just don't want a one and done kind of experience. Well, if it was done correctly, a kart racing game, and I say games as a service, I'm not saying free to play. It could go free to play, but I'm saying games as a service that allows for, and again, this is a dirty word, folks, but I'm coming at this from the business aspect. Let's, we have the fun in front of us. We know what we want, but how do I sell this? If I'm sitting on the board, how do I sell this to Phil? How do I sell this to Sarah? Well, I say, well, listen, look what Fortnite does. Fortnite does it great, right? You can make your money back by just, your quarterly $10, whatever it is, or $20 by just playing the game. You can have customization options in here. You can have characters that drop in, guest characters that pop in, very similar. Make a deal with Marvel. Have a Black Panther in there. Have Captain America join the thing. Why not have Optimus Prime in there? Why not? And I think that with all of that in front of us, the fun factor, the IPs, the iconic brands, the developers that they have, and now we're talking money. Can that work, Skullzi?
Okay, this is actually a great question, because 10 years ago was a different era for gaming. Now there are a lot more avenues for marketing and for getting hype for a title. First of all, I just love the idea of a Microsoft centralized Mario Kart style game, because for the longest time I've been saying they should do a Smash Brothers style game with all these different characters. Like, I want to have Doom Guy fighting Master Chief. I want that would just be an awesome dynamic. So thinking of that same thing in a Mario Kart style game, I think it would, not to quote Todd Howard here, but I think it would just work. And to piggyback off of what you said about the games as a service, that I agree that some games may not necessarily benefit from that as much. However, it's brilliant for other styles of games. It worked perfectly for Fortnite, and I think a Mario Kart style game on Xbox would be great because it's for games of service, because you can consistently add new content to it. You can add more tracks, new characters, especially as more IPs are released. Like let's say the Elder Scrolls 6 came out after this project was released, then you can add some Elder Scrolls 6 characters in there. You know, you can add some Wolfenstein 3 characters in there. But in terms of how they would sell this, I think that the brilliant idea would be get streamers involved. A Mario Kart style game on Xbox would be perfect for live streaming. And I think that if you can get streamers involved, get their audiences watching, get people wanting to get in on this early on, I think that would be the best way to market this game. And the potential for it is just insane because there's so many IPs that Microsoft can tap into from so many different developers, so many different styles of games that, like you said, someone who's a fan of, let's say, of Doom, but they're not a fan of a different style of game, they would join this game for Doom primarily, and then they would get hooked on it, you know, because who doesn't like a Mario Kart style game?
Yeah.
The potential for it is definitely there, especially when you bring streamers into the mix. I think that kind of gets marketing done for you. Even if you pay them a little bit, and if the streamer likes the game, they're going to keep playing it, which means that you get a lot more bang for your buck in terms of marketing. And yeah, I think that this could literally just work. And I'm surprised it's something we haven't seen before. I remember a couple years ago, Pete Hines, in an interview, hinted towards the potential for Bethesda characters to be in a Smash Brothers game. I don't remember the exact context of the conversation, but back then it seemed like they were entertaining something like this with Bethesda IPs being in a game like that. So I hope that Microsoft is listening to this, because I would play this type of game a lot. I would just love a Mario. I hate saying Mario Kart because, you know, it's Mario, but I don't know how else to explain the style of game, a kart racer game. Basically, I think it would be awesome. And there's so many things you can wrap up into it too, from all the different studios. Like brought up an excellent point earlier about Doom. That would be a great Bowser Castle level, and then Rainbow Road would be the Halo ring. It's just, it would just work perfectly,
dude. Yeah, I mean, listen, I like what you're putting down, and again, it's one of those IPs that don't have a place on Xbox right now, and it's an untracked paved road. All they have to do is drive down it. No pun intended. And Josh, you know, Skullzi said streamer. Well, Josh happens to stream, and he would gladly stream an Xbox kart racer of sorts. I mean, you can. It's the possibilities, folks, for this are limitless. And Josh was onto something earlier when he said that Crash Team Racing, which was in its heyday extremely popular, when they remade it, sold boatloads of it because people want a kart racer. And Crash doesn't even have, I mean, I know it's he's a classic IP, but his character lineup is not as stout as something like Mario, certainly not as stout as something like the Sega All-Star Racing, and it sold a boatload. Just imagine if Microsoft put the dollars to a kart racer, and they just happen to own two of the best racing studios in gaming. You know, this isn't they have to go out and, I mean, I would love to, I mean, Sumo Digital is a great developer. They would be great on this. They make great, they made the Sonic games. But they do have Playground Games. They do have Turn 10 Studios, and you don't know. I mean, like I said, I know that they don't force anyone to do games, but my God, this would be something. Zemi, I got to bring you in on the conversation. You and I have banged this drum for a while. Anything new that you would like to add, considering the amount of characters that Microsoft currently has in their roster? And again, this is not even counting what they would bring into the home of Xbox once the Activision Blizzard is done.
Yeah, I mean, just do it, please. You know, I mean, we've been talking about this forever, and you know, I agree with you, Boom. I think it needs to be done. I think that this is a time, if nothing else, for a little bit of entrepreneurship, and that is a word. That is a word. I'm not mispronouncing it. You know, I'm saying entrepreneurship. You know, to have, you know, internal people like take a look at this idea, play around with it, and propose something to Xbox, I think that, it makes a lot of sense. They have a extremely high amount of IP, so much IP that they don't have enough game studios to keep up with it all. Like, let's just be, realistic here. I mean, just Rare's lineup alone is probably more than they have studios to keep up with. So having a kart racer is a way to allow fans of these IP, these franchises that they currently aren't actively working on, to be able to play these characters, right? Which is a great strength. But to take it a step further, in marketing, market research is really, really popular, right? Companies don't want to do things without knowing, if it's ultimately going to work, or what's the chances of this working? What do consumers really want? And so I think that this game would also be, in some ways, an excellent way of doing some market research. They have a lot of IP. There's a lot of people screaming, make a, Killer Instinct, make a, make a Banjo.
I mean, you can have a little
game,
Jago
so
in a car riding around. I mean, who doesn't want that? I mean, come on.
But like, think about it, because if you had this kart racer with all of these iconic IPs, you're going to have a lot of them that don't currently have their own mainstream game.
Correct.
And you could look at which characters are players playing or racing with more. And you could use that information to hopefully gain insights on which next, IP should you make a game for that has been, dormant for the last 10 years, right? So, I think for market research, there, you could also make the argument that, there's great benefits with that. But, just by itself, having a kid-friendly game, being able to introduce these kids to, iconic franchises that they may have never seen before. A 7-year-old kid, may have, possibly has never played Halo, right? And, maybe their kid, maybe their parents don't want them to play Halo because of the,
the inherent violence behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But having a Halo character in this game, maybe 5 years after they play this game, they see Halo and they want to jump into that game, right? So, I think it makes a lot of sense all the way around. We've talked about it several times now. I think turn 10, I think, like you said, making like a memo or going to, turn 10 and asking, hey, would anyone be interested in this, kind of idea, and just growing it from there would be, a great idea. Probably better than turn 10 would be Playground Games, just because of their experience with like the arcadiness of racing. Because Forza Horizon is just more arcade than just regular Forza, which is more of like a simulation. But no, I like the idea. I think it makes a lot of sense. I hope that they would do it. Hopefully they do. Because I'd jump in day one.
Yeah, me too.
Another thing, though, too, that I wanted to bring up is the whole Activision Blizzard deal. That just brings even more IP, right? Imagine a World of Warcraft, level with WoW characters, and you could potentially add in iconic Call of Duty characters into the game as characters, as racers as well. I mean, you could have a Guitar Hero level. I don't know if a guitar is going to be driving a car, but you could have it set like in that type of like atmospheric, level with, like maybe a band playing and
dude, I love it.
Notes and stuff. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity. They have a tremendous amount of IP. I would go and say that they have more IP available to them than Nintendo does.
Yep, I agree,
right?
100%.
I mean, it's there's a ton of stuff, and if they did go the live service route, I would like to see them do something similar to how it's done in Halo. In the sense of, you're not having to buy character packs or anything like that. I think that would probably be smart, is to get away from the whole character packs and not lock behind these iconic franchises behind, a paywall. Mm-hmm. Rather, have people be able to buy and purchase skins for each of these characters.
Yeah, that's good.
As the service model. But yeah, boom, super excited. Hopefully they do it. But so far, no news.
Yeah, again, this is one of those ideas that I'm sure has been passed around. Listen, I don't have a business degree, folks, and again, like I said this before, Microsoft does know who I am, which is bonkers. I'm gonna say this because I have to. Every time I get a chance, I'm being followed by Sarah Bond. That's it. It's over, bro. That's it. So I'm very happy with that. But I would love to see this happen. Listen, I'm going to be 52 years old. And as much as I love Halo and I love Doom and Fallout, and I'm looking forward to Starfield and God of War and all of these very, auspicious adult themed games, I do still find a place. There's a place in my heart for a family game. I want a platformer. I want Banjo Kazooie, but I'm willing to wait on that for Toys for Bob to finally get around to doing it, and have someone do a kart racer. And again, if you think about you could add Spyro to this. You can add Crash. You can add Conquer. You can add Banjo Kazooie. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. And again, we understand that there's an audience. Mav, I want to bring you in on the conversation. You stream.
Can I cut in real quick?
Oh yeah, sure. Come on in. Yeah.
Just one other thing that I wanted to make sure we
absolutely.
touched on here, because Xbox is very like leading the charge when it comes to accessibility, right? And Mario Kart is one of those games that you could literally sit down with a 2-year-old, and as long as they're pressing the A button, they don't even have to press the A button. They can have the controller in their hand. They will finish a race and can be a part of the race, right?
Be a part of the conversation. Be a part of your gaming life. Yes, 100%.
And I think that's also something that happens with these that can very easily happen with these kart racers. And I think it would just be another just another step in the right direction for family gaming, where it's like, I mean, I've talked about it on here. I was playing Halo with my boys at 2 or 3, right? Like I love it. They were, they'd see a spider and they'd ask for mom for guns and grenades. We're like, yo, calm down, pal.
I love down. It. That's awesome.
So, but just the accessibility part of the conversation, I think, is worth having when it comes to these family games as well.
Real quick, Shannon Cross, and again, I like this idea. I don't want to be greedy, but I agree with her. She says, I would prefer a fighting game in the vein of Marvel versus Capcom. Could you imagine a hand-drawn Xbox Marvel versus Capcom? Listen, that's a topic for another day, folks. I'm going to bring that. Shannon, thank you for that. That is pretty damn dope. But Mav, listen, you stream a lot. And one of the things that we've seen, specifically because Josh talked about it, is a game that's streamable, that you gets a lot of views, that gets a lot of looks, is Mario Kart. And an Xbox racer with iconic characters and even guest characters from other IPs. Could you imagine if they paid to have a Mandalorian in there? You know what I'm saying? Or a Boba Fett or someone of that nature to guest into this kart racing. I think the potential not only for popularity, but to make a lot of money. And I know that people don't like talking about that. It's still an important part of the conversation. This is a business. So I kind of wanted to come at this from, hey, I'm an excited nerd, to I know how to, I don't have a business degree, but I can definitely sell this to a board of people, and they'll like what I'm putting down. What are your thoughts on it? Does Xbox need its own kart racer?
Yeah, I honestly agree. I think they do. Now it's not just that. I think it's more than that. They're trying to reach that 2-3 billion gamer audience, right? You're not going to do that unless you really get the kids and the family involved more.
Yep.
Like it's such a kids are always on their iPad or on they phones at early ages these days, and you get so used to playing on all these devices. And you got games like Roblox and Fortnite and Minecraft on all of those devices as well, and everything. And one thing that I think would make a lot of sense, you have this a kart racer, or you could make it in any genre, really. Is like, if it's a simple racing game, you could make it like planes or something like that. You could do a lot of different fun little things and try and be a little different. You don't have to be 100% copycat. There's so much potential within the brand, but if you come out with something that's more simple, something that's fun and engaging, and for a a large audience from 3 years old all the way up to 93. You know what I mean? Then you're reaching a different group of people than they're really reaching right now. Now, one thing that Xbox has done a lot is they've relied on like, well, if these other games are on our platform, we don't feel like we need to make our own, right? And because let's say that they have, oh, people can just go buy Crash Team Racing now on Xbox, or people can go buy Sonic and Sega All Stars Racing. They've kind of felt before like they don't need to make that, right? But I strongly disagree with that from their perspective, and I know that's kind of what their ideas of this are, because that's one of the reasons they bought Tomb Raider as an exclusive deal before to Xbox, because Uncharted was on PlayStation, so they went and got that
Which
first
they
party
still
deal.
should buy the IP from Square
Yeah.
Enix, but that's
So
a horse of another color. That is for sure.
they kind of feel they have in the past. I don't know if this is going to be the future Xbox or what they're doing now, but they've used making deals with publishers and also first party content to fill the gaps of what's missing on the platform, right? And I think it's time to make sure that you have an identity of first party is the number one thing going forward. If you really put that focus into it and say, okay, this is also not just going to be for the shooters and the RPGs and all this stuff, but this is also for the family, because you have
Yeah.
two things. You have a $300 console out there at $299. They got Game Pass Family coming out,
Yep.
right?
This June, I think it's launching in the summer. I think they
Yeah,
said.
right. So if you have a kid going to the store with their parents and they're gonna say, "Well, what do I want for Christmas?" It's gonna be a Switch or an Xbox are gonna be feasible because they're both gonna be available for the Series S for $300 or the Switch for
It might even
$300,
be
right?
250, Mav.
It could be. So if you have those games like a kart racer, you have your simple platformers that really identify with that brand, and you can guarantee they're always going to be in Game Pass and live on Game Pass, but also they would be playable on phones
Yes.
and on tablets, right?
Yes. Yep.
And in web browsers, all these other things, so there's more to it than just that. It's about inviting a different audience to the platform, because I think
What you're
kids are
doing,
starting to
Mav,
catch
is
on
inviting
now.
everyone to the party, not just the
100%.
hardcore, not just the adults, but you're getting again Xbox. If there's one thing that we've learned is that it's not an exclusive brand. It is an inclusive brand. And when you say the word inclusive, that means everyone. That means kids that have never played games. That means kids that have been playing games like me for 40 plus years and everyone in between. And a game like that, look, here's a perfect example, Mav. This year, I am incredibly honored to have bought my nephew, who is my life, his first Xbox. And on the cover of that Xbox Series S was Fortnite and soccer cars. What if Microsoft didn't have to pay Epic Games to
Exactly.
have these on their own box when they can just put everyone from a kart racer or a Banjo-Kazooie or a Conquer or a Crash on that box and say, yeah, these games are included in here, but it's our IP. They don't have to pay the licensing fee to have those games in there. That's something else to take into account.
Yeah, that's 100% what I'm getting at with this, Boom, because they rely on a third party a lot, which I mean all platform holders do, but for something as pushing forward to that family brand, to really push forward to that family, like, because that's one of the reasons the Switch and stuff is so successful, right? It's a safe choice, right? Parents that don't know anything about gaming, right? Some of them, when they know that their kids asking for a game console, it's like a safe choice. You get the Switch, right? Because it has Mario on it. It has this. It has that. If you really push forward and advertise those kinds of games on your platform with heavy marketing, with heavy branding, and you start having those trailers come out, and then it really is eye catching, you're gonna have some of that, and also with the price point, it just makes a lot of sense. So I think they need to put a focus on it. I hope they have something, but I don't think they just go get some third party dev to make it. right? And it'd
No,
be a
it would have to
one-off.
be in-house. It would
Because
have to
then
be
you're risking you
in-house.
can't continue the franchise, which
That is correct.
they've had the problem with
Well,
Killer Instinct and other things as well, right?
especially whenever you have such great developers that know how to make phenomenal racing games. Like, why would you want
Yes.
to put that out to
Especially
it?
with Activision Blizzard coming in, and they already have a history of doing these kinds of games,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So once this is done, they'll have the resources and tools to be able to do this. And I've said this before on this show when we had a similar discussion, Boom. I think they need to have a whole brand behind, like a whole separate publishing branch, kind of like a Bethesda, like the Activision Blizzard, Xbox family, right? And they
Yes.
have a series of these different family oriented style games that are really like for everyone, and then market those, and you have certain devs that's what they do, and
Well,
that's what that way you're
real
not.
quick, Triumph Design in the chat says toys for Bob. And
Yeah.
what that's perfect. Literally perfect.
Yep. And if you have
I would say I would have said Vicarious Visions. Unfortunately, they just got folded into Blizzard, but
there's a lot of those devs over at you could say High Moon could do it also.
High
they
Moon would
made the
do it,
Transformers
yeah.
games,
Mhm.
there's a lot of devs from the Activision teams that could do that. There's some with Bethesda as well. But if you had this whole branch of Xbox, that you wouldn't have to pull from other devs that really don't want to make those kind of games, right? Like Rare's already talked about they want to make new creations, they want to do their own thing, right? So you can't go and force
No,
Rare like they did.
let Rare be Rare. You know
Right.
what? They don't need Rare for this. They don't need them.
Yeah, it would be a great fit, but if they don't want to do it, you don't want to force them. So there's a lot of devs that like this kind of stuff, that like making these things, they have a passion for it. So
Yeah.
let them do it, fund it, have a separate branch. All the games are going to be in Game Pass, and you can really market behind that. I think that they're missing the boat on that one.
No, absolutely 100%. And you know what? I saved VJ for last. After this, folks, we're getting into the big topic of the show. That is, of course, the Starfield MMO that comes the way of Skullzi TV, who's guesting today. But he also has some other information outside of just that is going to be nice enough to drop. That's going to be very thought-provoking. And we're going to get to that momentarily, Skullzi. VJ, let's bring you in on the conversation. Like I've said to many people don't know about VJ is that he has seen both sides of the coin in regards to the gaming business. He's been on the retail aspect of it. He's been in the development aspect of it. And now he's a part of the gaming community at large as a podcaster. So you have a well-rounded opinion, one that I entirely respect. Hearing everyone's points from a marketing aspect, it seems, and again, this is just an opinion, there's a mark being missed by Microsoft, and that is the family aspect. That Phil has talked about making more family-friendly games. It's something that I enjoy playing with my nephew. I know a lot of people here who have kids enjoy playing with their kids. And this would be a big one. And because of the massive amount of IP and characters that come with that IP and development prowess that they currently have in the staple of their current 23 plus studios, they could deliver something incredibly special. I even dare say that it would give Mario Kart a real run for its money. What are your thoughts on this? Are they missing the mark?
I don't have any issue with what Phil is aspiring to, because it's all about connectivity and bringing people from different walks of life together, and that can be your own family to a varying degree. But I'm going to try and give a counter objective here, from just so that we've got everything in the pot, right? I think it's really difficult for Xbox to ever match the phenomena that is Mario Kart or any of the household sort of character-based IPs that Nintendo has, especially in terms of original creation and subsequent engagement via software sales. And engagement via subscription is a different beast or type of measurement, especially in terms of transparency. I have no idea. This is the problem. I have no idea how the pretenders to the throne, such as the game Sonic you mentioned, and Crash Team Racing and Sonic Racing, and others have fared in terms of sort of capitalizing or cashing in on the sort of, like you say, Boom, light-hearted, family, colorful, and friend, led party kart racer genre, shall we call it? And I guess the question you're really asking is that would Game Pass benefit from something like this in terms of the audience it wants to attract longer term, the family aspect of it, and so on and so forth. And would it succeed, right, in Xbox's sort of digital buffet of offerings? And I guess the answer, the top of 99% of people's heads is yes, right, and it would, right. Who's to argue? For me, then, you're kind of putting your developer and your business hat on, and then you're trying to protect, the IP brands and all that sort of good stuff, right? And so then suddenly for me, then when I'm thinking like that, right, it's if I'm going to go in and make a proposal for such a thing, it's got to be at least in the same design and character roster-led stratosphere as Mario Kart, right? So that's my only concern, and the risk that with Xbox, we end up with a Mario Kart Lite at best, right? And if Rare or PGG, I know the studios that you guys have mentioned, or in fact another potent studio within Activision want to champion a Mario Kart-esque title, okay, great. Then at least that garners some confidence, right, that these guys know what they're doing. And I mentioned Rare. If you go back, I think it's 25 years ago, you will know that Diddy Kong Racing was astonishing. And
that is absolutely correct. That was a fantastic race.
And it was out of the blue. It was out of the blue boom. Yeah, no one expected it, right? I remember clearly because we just couldn't get our hands on enough product at the time. Demand outstripped, the amount of product we could actually get our hands on. So, and if I'm not mistaken, I think it's Diddy Kong Racing's silver anniversary this year. So perhaps someone wants to fact check that. So, and the other thing, Boom, is one could suggest, and again, these are just suggestions, right? These are the top of my head. So, none of this is maybe a poor take, right? One could suggest why not just place Crash Team Racing in Game Pass when the Activision acquisition is ratified and concluded this year or next year? And perhaps there's a logic to first sort of observe what the success, uptake, appetite, and sustained engagement is like for Crash Team Racing in Game Pass before going down a road that may do your IP more harm than good. And this is a real possibility as the layman or light user, which Game Pass is and Xbox are trying to attract, right, to get from 30 to 100 million users or whatever the number, blue sky thinking number is over Xbox, and they'll compare the quality of the two. And I feel the quality of the Nintendo offering is always going to be vastly, perceptively speaking, of course, right, superior. And then you've to consider the spiraling connotations that might arise from that, right? And I know you guys might be feeling that, VJ, you're not being entirely amiable or benevolent, and that's correct, right? Because it's a ploy on my part. Why? Because it's always about setting down a tough, pragmatic marker and a challenge to any would-be studio within Xbox or even externally, right? And that studio's leaders. And for that consortium or set of stakeholders, right, to realize the gravity of the responsibility if you're going to embark on an all-star Xbox-led party kart racer. And so if you're going to do it, bring a feasible, exciting, sort of an irrefutable and compelling concept to the table if you really want to play and jiggle with Phil's crown jewels. I'm kind of sensing there's a few panel members.
But go ahead.
I'm sensing there's a few panel members shifting uneasily in their seats, so I apologize. But I just don't want to see a party kart racer that might only be given the Battletoads treatment, for example, right? Or the 343 Studios, sort of take on Halo, right? Which I thought was a really good game, by the way. So, and I also feel, and this would really
have to be done with class and precision, and it would have to be done with developers that want to bring a special kind of racer that Xbox has never had. And I think that would be in the documentation when they put it out company-wide. Hey, we have an idea. We want to gauge if anyone wants to be a part of this new IP that we're looking to build.
Yep. I also feel Xbox, and this is inwardly looking, right, has bigger fish and new genres and or ground to break with a relatively sort of untapped technological sort of advancements of these next-gen consoles, especially when it comes to Rare and PGG, which are, for me, the main candidates that I can see. And again, my observations are limited, right? Knowledge is limited, and that's just the fact, right? And the potential incredible endeavors that they're already working on. But as I say, I wouldn't say no to it, but we've seen it's not just the developers, Boom. I think it's primarily down to the producers, right, who are going to champion this on behalf of the developers to Xbox. And we've seen a couple of hits and misses. And if they can get this right with the right team behind it, then I think, as Zemi was saying, right, it could be very big for Game Pass.
No, there's no doubt about it. And I think Game Pass would be at the center of the conversation. But listen, folks, thank you so much for hanging out with us for an hour and 15. We're going to get into it now. And I got to bring Skullzi in. But before I bring you in, Skullzi, I got to thank three people. Cody P drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, I want to mention the Turn 10 statement. Playground, who makes Forza Horizon, is making Fable 4. I think that proves that statement 100%. And I think you're absolutely right with that. Drawn TJ drops an additional and very generous $10 super chat and says, when are we getting Vigilante 8 from Activision? We can add a car combat mode in Forza realistic. I don't want realistic. I want cartoony. And I think that if they try to make it realistic, it'd be a disaster. But I like the I quite enjoyed Vigilante 8, but my favorite OG car fighter, if you will, was Twisted Metal Black. That is by far one of my favorites in the series. Alexander Dark 91 drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, hi guys, love the content. Hey Skullzi, any chance that the Planet of the Apes game is at Bethesda is real? Well, we're going to get into some stuff right now. And Skullzi, first of all, again, thanks so much for being here. Your video the other day was so good. I watched it twice. You put down a lot of really big pieces of information on why you think that a Starfield MMO is in the cards. Now, you didn't give a specific year. You didn't say it's launching day and date with Starfield. You didn't suggest that it's coming out in 2023. This is something that is hypothetical, but you did bring up a lot of points, especially in who they've hired recently and what team would be tasked to do it. So by all means, the stage is yours. Why don't you talk about why you came up with this video and how you put all of the ones together to make it?
Oh, yeah, of course. So today was actually interesting. Prior to the show, I had one of my anonymous sources reach out and give me some more information, which I could touch on here soon. That kind of is enveloped into this whole Starfield MMO theory. But yeah, for a while now, I've been thinking a Starfield MMO was entirely possible for many reasons. I mean, first of all, if we just look at actual concrete patterns with Bethesda, you got, let's say, ZeniMax Online Studios, who make the Elder Scrolls Online equivalent to the Elder Scrolls franchise. And then we have Bethesda Game Studios Austin, who make the Fallout Online equivalent to the Fallout franchise. So it seems like Bethesda Game Studios' main IPs, or only IPs so far, which is the Elder Scrolls and Fallout, seem to have an online equivalent. So with that in mind, it would almost make no sense for Starfield to not follow suit, especially with Starfield being set in space. It has the whole faction wars. We have some lore that 20 years before the start of Starfield's single-player campaign in the universe is something called the Colony Wars. And that sounds like the perfect backdrop, I would think, for a Starfield MMO in terms of setting, because that kind of goes along the same lines as the Elder Scrolls Online, which takes place before a lot of the single-player games and has faction wars. So it seems like the stage is set for a Starfield MMO to definitely take place. And on top of that, there has been numerous pieces of evidence, even though it's speculative, over the last few years that support this as well. Everything from a ZeniMax Online Studio concept artist actually making space art for an unannounced project. There's pictures of that. I believe there's 4 concept arts out there that have a very spacey vibe to them. And on top of that, we have another ZeniMax Online Studio job listing saying that their new unannounced game is specifically going to have NPC and player-controlled vehicles. Now, when you think of what kind of game would have NPC and player-controlled vehicles, I mean, theoretically, the options are pretty large. I mean, you could have a GTA clone or a superhero clone in a city, but really, if you take a look at the current Bethesda products, it would make the most sense for it to be a Starfield MMO. And on top of that, there are Bethesda Game Studios in Maryland specifically, developers who on their LinkedIn profiles are saying that there is yet another unannounced project in the works right now that's yet to be announced. And we already know Starfield is announced. We already know the Elder Scrolls 6 was announced back at the same time in 2018, I believe. So there is still another project out there that we have no knowledge as to what it could be. Now, this morning, I did get some information from a source. They seem to believe based on stuff that they've seen that it might be a Mandalorian game at ZeniMax Online Studios. However, I have a theory about that. Based on information that's given to some of these sources, they might just be guessing that it's Mandalorian because there were some leaks, supposed leaks, over the last couple of years saying the same thing. But let me paint this picture. Even if ZeniMax Online Studios is indeed doing a Mandalorian game, I still think that Bethesda Game Studios is in the very early process of a Starfield MMO, especially in terms of Bethesda Game Studios Austin, and especially in terms of the fact that it's confirmed all the different Bethesda studios actually work together on major projects. For instance, BGS Montreal is finishing up testing and polishing phases for Starfield right now. So that much is also confirmed. And I think it's just a perfect way for Bethesda to gain interest on the Starfield hype again, because let's say 4 years from now, 5 years from now, after Starfield DLC has come out and the attention and hype for the game is starting to dwindle just a little bit, you can drop the Starfield MMO, and that would get people more interested in the universe again, get more players in the universe, and that could be something that can sustain the franchise until Starfield 2 comes out, because we all know the Elder Scrolls 6 is coming after Starfield. Fallout 5 is on the table somewhere. So I would think that Fallout 5 would be after the Elder Scrolls 6, which would give us a big chunk of time that Starfield would just kind of be existing. Given the Bethesda Game Studios modding community, they tend to keep games alive for longer than usual. Bethesda's blessed with this, but I still believe a Starfield MMO is not only in the works, but I think it's definitely going to be something we see. Not anytime soon. This is probably like 5+ years. We might get teases about it leading up until it's actually announced. But no, I still believe, despite the Mandalorian rumors, I think that even if the Mandalorian rumors are true, a Starfield MMO could still exist. And that's another perfect point is if ZeniMax Online Studios was doing their own space game that wasn't tied to an already successful IP, then theoretically it would be competing directly with Starfield. That wouldn't happen. Bethesda wouldn't want to.
I think that wouldn't be a good thing for Starfield to go up against Star Wars.
Yes. So that's why I still am leaning towards this being a Starfield MMO. Now, I will say this: in the information I got this morning, I can't go into too many details because it would burn some of my sources and ask me not to be too specific. But I will say that you should expect more licensed projects, meaning more games based on license, like comic book licenses specifically, actually, from the different Bethesda developers. That's going to happen. Roundhouse Studios is working on something pretty exciting that might surprise a lot of people, that is based on a franchise that is already going to get a lot of hype just because of what it is. Like I said, I can't say that, but that kind of ties into the comment, the donation you got earlier about Indiana Jones, or I'm sorry, about the Planet of the Apes. I can't confirm Planet of the Apes is going on, but I would believe it given the information I got this morning. And the further that, Indiana Jones is a little bit farther along than people think. Todd Howard attached to any project means we won't really see the game until it's necessarily ready. But I have the feeling we might start getting some more teases next year for Indiana Jones, based on what I was told this morning. Bethesda is actually, they have a lot of projects going on, so much so that Xbox has actually taken some of their assets and given it to Bethesda to help with their workload right now. Not that that's a bad thing. Bethesda isn't in the weeds, but they're doing some very ambitious things with many different projects, even with the franchises we already know. The Elder Scrolls 6 seems to have some pretty ambitious things wrapped up into its core gameplay mechanics based on what I heard this morning. And again, I want to reemphasize that still take all this with a grain of salt and as a rumor, especially the information I got today. It collaborates with other things, other insiders and other people I've heard. However, I can't 100% verify all the information, but it does seem to line up with other rumors and stuff. So I think we're at a golden age of Bethesda, the very early stages of a golden age of Bethesda, and there's going to be a lot of surprises going on. And the Starfield MMO would just be perfect because if you look at games like Elite Dangerous, you look at games like Star Citizen, those games are actually getting a lot more attention and a bigger player base than some people may have anticipated. And at the same time, without getting negative, both of those games seem to have a little bit of negativity in terms of just the community not happy with the current development phase. In terms of Elite Dangerous's Odyssey DLC seemed to have bugged the game out a lot. It's not available on consoles. And then Star Citizen with its 35,000 year Kickstarter campaign. So I think people would welcome a Starfield MMO. But again, this is a separate project. This would be a separate project from the single player game, just as much as the Elder Scrolls Online was a separate project made by a separate developer than the single player ones.
Yeah, I mean, I like what you're putting down, and I think I mean, outside of the MMO that we build the show as being the big topic, it's what you said afterwards that has me very perplexed with excitement, and that's the comment, Skullzi, of we're all going to be very surprised of all the other projects. It appears, based on what you're saying, that Bethesda might become the Insomniac of Microsoft, the way Insomniac has really held Sony above water, so to speak, as their other games, come out. Obviously we've seen Insomniac in this generation alone release Miles Morales. We saw them release Ratchet and Clank. We know that they're working on a Resistance reboot. We know that Wolverine is coming. We know that Spider-Man 2 is coming. So to hear that Bethesda, run by Pete Hines and, of course, God Howard, is, really putting the pedal to the metal when it comes to what we already know and what we don't. It seems like it's a very exciting time if you're a Bethesda fan.
Oh, definitely. And yeah, I can't emphasize this enough. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised by some of the titles that are going to be released and what they are tied to. And even to go further, they're going back, and I've heard In Exile is actually working on remastering or redoing some of the earlier Elder Scrolls and Fallout games. And on top of that, Quake is also getting a reboot. I was told that it was in talks this morning, but now I can confirm it's actually in development. There is a Quake reboot. I shouldn't say confirm, but I heard it's further along than I was told by a few people. So Quake is also getting a reboot.
Yeah, we talked about that last week, Skullzi. As a matter of fact, I have a strong suspicion that at the announced digital Quake event that's coming, I believe, next month, we could see that release there. That would be something.
No, for sure. And it also, I think it was last year or the year before, where they did the light Quake remaster, where they kind of redid the HD and stuff. I think that was a litmus test to try to see what the overall engagement rate would be for the Quake franchise now, because it's an older franchise, and it's also a franchise that changed. It became more of a multiplayer arena focused shooter as opposed to the first couple of games, which were like Doom style shooters.
Right.
So I think they're going to take it back to the single player, but at the same time, like Doom does now, Doom actually has a pretty solid multiplayer component to it, on top of the super awesome single player campaign. So here we are again, just talking about all the different capabilities and IPs that not only Bethesda has, but now Xbox has. And that's a great point you brought up about Insomniac games. I think Bethesda might be along those same lines, based on what I've heard in terms of the Mando game, some comic book franchises in there. I wish I could go into more details, but I'm sworn to secrecy.
No. Listen, that's more than enough for me. I mean, because I've been banging the drum, and Zemi, you and I talked about this on the Xbox Factor for years. I've said for Microsoft needs their own comic book exclusive. I'm sorry. I know there are going to be people like boo exclusives or boo comic book things, but if Spider-Man 2018 and Miles Morales are anything to go by, they sell very well. Both of those have seen well over 20 million copies sold, and because they don't have to sell the game, Skullzi, it's in Xbox Game Pass, they will get a lot more of eyes and hands on the game because of its accessibility.
Exactly. And another point is some people, like for instance, people that aren't as impressed with Fallout 76 to have like a doomsday scenario with Bethesda. They don't know what to think about Starfield. They're like, oh, I'll wait until it comes out after a few months and then play it. I think Game Pass, especially for Starfield and these other IPs that people might not be so certain about if they're kind of on the fence, Game Pass is a great way for them to test that out, for them to not have to spend $60 or something like that
on a new IP that's untested. Yeah, 1,000%, and it goes right back to Game Pass. Zemi Games, I got to go to you next. You are one of the biggest Bethesda fans. We know that once you hit it big, that could be any day now, you're going to get a treasure chest. And you're going to fill it with those Oblivion coins.
Septums, yeah.
There you go. And you're just going to have a nice bit your war chest for everyone to look at.
Yeah.
How does a Starfield MMO sound to you? Does it sound like the evolution? And again, this is speculation town where it's sunny and 70, right? And Starfield isn't even out yet, but it does seem like it's a logical next step. It's going to be a single player romp. We're all going to put 100, 200, 300. You're probably going to put 500 hours into Starfield. I guarantee it. But there is a community that loves multiplayer. And why not bring that kind of multiplayer to something as potentially as popular as Starfield is going to be? What are your thoughts on that, dude?
Yeah, first off, just to talk on those septums, man, if I hit it really, really big, like Elon Musk big, I think I'd buy a cave and I'd fill that sucker with those septums. And
would you be diving in them like Scrooge McDuck?
Either that or I would become like the Smog, I think is like the dragon's name from Lord of the Rings.
Yes,
Smog, I would become the Smog of Elder Scrolls. Yeah, it would be phenomenal. Fantastic. Look, I think that Bethesda, or a Bethesda studio will probably eventually make a Starfield MMO or an online Starfield game, right? They've done it with Elder Scrolls. They've done it with Fallout. As Skullzi mentioned, I think it's probably just going to be a matter of time. Are they actively currently working on it? I have no idea. One thing that kind of makes me say maybe not is just the fact that Starfield looks like a phenomenal game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to play the game for probably a lot of hours, but it's not tested amongst the wide customer base, right? It could potentially come out and not do very, very well for Bethesda. That's always an option. I don't think it's going to happen, but it could happen. And so the thing that makes me hesitant about them green lighting another Starfield game is that this is a brand new franchise. No one's, from, you, me, anyone on this podcast, probably most of the people watching this podcast, probably everyone watching this podcast, has not played Starfield, right? So I just kind of find it hard to think that they would greenlight this project without the first game of a new franchise not even being out yet or tested amongst players, right? So that's the one thing that just kind of makes me hesitant to believe that they are actively working on a Starfield MMO. With that being said, if they are working on it, I think it would be phenomenal if they made it almost like the Star Citizen for consoles, if that makes any sense. And I know that Star Citizen gets a lot of bad press for multiple things that they've done and some of their practices and just how long they've been in development for now. But I really, really have just kind of always thought that game looked phenomenal, and I would love to have a similar experience to Star Citizen on consoles. And I think Starfield would potentially be a great way of doing that, especially with flying spaceships and NPCs
going to different galaxies, different planets.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
I think it would be a lot of fun. One other thing that does kind of just get me a little bit uncertain about this is just Bethesda's previous history with online games, right? Trust me, I love Bethesda, right? But I will also admit some of their faults, and one of those faults is they've never really just released a multiplayer game from their core franchise and it just come out and it just work, right? It be like the perfect experience that everyone wants. Whenever Elder Scrolls Online came out, the game had a lot of flaws, and of course they continually updated it and the game is a lot better now. I still love to play it. And then, of course, there's Fallout 76, which didn't happen too long ago. And we all remember that game had a lot of troubles, on its launch as well. So that's one thing that also kind of makes me hesitant about a Starfield MMO or a Starfield online game is just Bethesda's past experience with creating multiplayer games for their core, franchise. But hopefully the third time's the charm. But overall, man, I think I'm going to really enjoy Starfield. If they come out with a multiplayer game, I'm probably not going to play it as much as I'm going to be playing, their single player game. Just because, that's just my preference. Like I prefer, amazing single player content. And to me, what Bethesda does with their Fallout series, the Elder Scrolls, it just hits me in the right spot as far as, what I want out of a single player game. And so I think Starfield's going to do the same thing. Their multiplayer just hasn't really done that. A big reason why I'm so into Elder Scrolls Online is just because it's Elder Scrolls, right?
Yeah,
If
and
it was any other franchise, I could probably care a whole lot less. So I don't know. It's all speculation, rumors, but I think that there is really good, reason to think that Bethesda will eventually do an online game for Starfield. I mean, Xbox is, their bread and butter has always been kind of online experiences. So it just kind of makes sense. But I don't know if it's being made right now as we speak.
Yeah, I mean, again, you have every right to feel hesitant about it, but again, it's I think the evolution of the franchise, of the new IP, just screams multiplayer. Josh, let's get your opinion on this, brother. An Elder Scrolls MMO, that's a thing, right? Fallout 76 MMO, that's a thing. Starfield, it's an untested, it's a new IP. We don't know how it's going to come off. I mean, we know that it is considered to be Todd Howard's baby, if you will. He's put this is a game that's been in development for 10 years, maybe more than that, we've heard. So is the evolution of an IP that hasn't even come out yet MMO? Does that happen?
My head goes directly to Destiny, and I think MMO light. That's kind of where my head goes a little bit, only because of Phil's love for Destiny. And
so you're saying like it wouldn't be it would, like, they would have raids and things of that nature, but keeping it an open world type of game, but smaller, with maybe 3 or 4 players
potentially. But I wouldn't say limited to that either, right? Like maybe there's the opportunity for it to take everything that Destiny does really well and then evolve that, so that it could be more. You could have a 20-man raid, or 20-person raid, whatever the case may be, and really evolve on that. Space leaves so much opportunity, right?
Yeah.
And factions leave so much opportunity. And personally, I would love to see it be something that maybe we haven't experienced before. That's maybe like just treading new waters and going about it in a way that like it breathes a breath of fresh air into the whole MMO, genre. And something that like really sets a standard. Maybe for all we know, maybe Starfield was a major factor because of what is going to be, that Microsoft was like, we need this. This needs to be like this might be their next major release. I mean, I know everybody's excited. I know everybody, Todd Howard, all the Uncle Todd, all that stuff, but like maybe there's so much more to it than just the brand. Maybe the gameplay and the mechanics of this and the way it's all going to fall into place was a major factor here. And I do hope that's the case. Like I would love to see something similar to like Mass Effect, but on a much larger scale, and with a team of friends versus just NPCs, something. And I think the pedigree and the talent is there for that kind of thing to happen. So whether it's MMO or MMO light, I think we live in a time now where if it just comes out and it's fully single player, I don't, I mean, it'll be fun. We'll enjoy it. But the longevity of knowing that like there's a continual content drip of new raids, new strikes, that kind of stuff is very helpful, especially with a service like Game Pass, where you're going to get that for free just by being a part of Game Pass.
Yeah, 100%. Real quick, 9 lives. I was laughing. I should have muted myself. He says Starfield will cause more buzz than the Will Smith slap. Heard around the world. That's very funny. Mav, let's bring you in on the conversation. But before I do, brother, let me thank a couple of people with some super chats that have come in. We had Drawn TJ drops a very generous, an additional $10 super chat and says, "Is Elder Scrolls 6 going to be online or have an online mode?"
God, I hope not.
I hope not either. I would imagine it's going to be
Probably not.
Skullzi is probably going to be single player, right?
It'll be single player, yeah. The Elder Scrolls Online is there for people that want the multiplayer aspect. The only thing I might see that's anything near multiplayer would just be social elements, like for those who have played Doom Eternal, where you have the challenges where it's like kill 10 demons in a week or whatever. We might have something like that, but I highly doubt it. I think it's going to be fully single player. And that's it. I don't think Bethesda, especially because Bethesda already knows that they've gotten a little bit of flack for Fallout 76 directly after they said that they're focusing on single player games back in that save player one thing. So they're going to make enough of a separation from the single player and the multiplayer. I don't think we need to worry about TES 6 or even Starfield launching this November having any multiplayer baked into the game. At most, it would just be social stuff, and that's it.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Drawn TJ drops an additional and very generous $5 super chat. Says Starfield MMO might get assistance by Blizzard and made by Bethesda. Yeah, I mean, well, listen, why not? You have them in the house. Why not? Bring everyone to the table. But Mav, let's bring you in on the conversation. For you, obviously, you like Pong or about multiplayer. You play multiplayer quite a bit. Does an MMO for Starfield ring the bell for you?
Absolutely. I think it makes a lot of sense. It kind of just fits with the mold of what Bethesda's been doing. And if Starfield is the next Bethesda Game Studios tentpole franchise that goes along with Elder Scrolls and Fallout, what do both of those games have now? Is they have MMOs, right? They have these online games. They have Fallout 76. They have Elder Scrolls Online. So when they announced Starfield, it was kind of like an inevitable thing that eventually, as long as Starfield's successful, that they would do a Starfield MMO as well. And I don't foresee any reason why Starfield's not going to be successful at all. Then you add on top of that, when they had the big Bethesda show, when they were talking about welcoming all the teams, and they kind of did a breakdown with all the teams in an interview. ZeniMax Online at the time said that they had a huge thing in development, bigger than anything
AAA
they've ever
games,
worked
matter of
on
fact,
before.
they said AAA, yeah.
Yes, they're bigger than anything they've worked on before, right? And then that they also said they were working on a second project as well. So I believe there is two projects going on there. I believe one of them is the Starfield MMO. That just makes sense because Starfield's been in development as a key part of what Bethesda's been doing for years now. So they probably already started getting the groundwork going for that. But also, this other game is very interesting. I remember there was like job listings that had something to do with like Unreal Engine or something like that as well. Skullzi may know something about that, but that could potentially be to that second project. I don't know if the Starfield MMO would be in Unreal. I don't know which one that would go for, but as far as the MMO, I think it's happening, man. I think he's right. I think his source is correct. I mean, I just don't see any reason to discount that if we add into the fact of what we've already been told from ZeniMax Online Studios publicly about, they have this huge thing in the works, right? So, but Skullzi's got me like thinking like this roundhouse thing threw me for a loop. Okay. I can't stop thinking about roundhouse now, man.
It's gonna surprise a lot of people. That's about all I can say. They'll be excited.
Yeah, fair to say it's some IP that probably a lot of people love, right? And stuff like that. So yeah, dude,
as long as
that's
it's
what
something
gets me
Xbox
going.
hasn't had before. I think that's going to be the IP itself is going to be the talking point. But I love when we get new experiences that the box currently doesn't have that other boxes have. And when you talk about the superhero genre, if that's what it turns out to be, well, Sony has that in spades, and no one does it better than them, to be quite frank. So it would be great if that, in fact, is the case.
Yeah. I do have a question for Skullzi. Regarding the Unreal Engine listings, would that probably pertain to that second title, potentially maybe the Star Wars one, if you thought it was, if potential was a Star Wars game out there or something like that?
Yeah, I believe so. I've heard Unreal 5. There's definitely been job listings for it within ZeniMax Online Studios. I've heard. I don't really want to say it. There's some speculation about what this other title could be. I've heard Lord of the Rings. I've heard steampunk. So I think that there is a whole nother fairly large IP within ZeniMax Online Studios, which is crazy to think about, because if they're working on either the Mando or the Starfield MMO, and then they have something else, clearly there's a driving factor that's pushing them to want to at least have the pre-development process for another game go on at the same time as the full swing development for something else. I think that Unreal 5 is in the works right now at ZeniMax Online Studios, just based on the job listings, because they wouldn't want to hire people like the job listing said, specifically with a lot of experience in that engine, if it wasn't going to utilize it somehow. Oh, sorry, my cat is sneezing. She's got a cold. Are you okay?
She's allergic to leaks.
Yeah, she doesn't like this. But no, I feel that the Unreal 5 is legit. As far as to what it's on, it's hard to say, because ZeniMax Online Studio does have their own engine for ESO.
Yeah.
But Unreal 5 is a great engine. And it's early on in Unreal 5's lifetime, so that engine is going to evolve. It's going to get a lot more cool stuff, and it's a lot more accessible than other Unreal engines have been. I mean, the coding is still one of the hardest coding languages out there that Unreal uses, but it's a great engine, and if ZeniMax Online Studios uses it for something, I'd be hyped for it for sure.
Yeah. Right on, man.
VJ, let's get your opinion, but before we do, got to thank Black Sausage, who drops a very generous $2 super chat, and he says Skullzi is the best skooma overload.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
And Jordan TJ, dude, your generosity is certainly precedes you, brother. Thank you so much. He drops an additional $10 super chat and says Elder Scrolls Online 2 with a question mark, because the first one is outdated in graphics. Yeah, it's probably hit its stride. I would imagine that at some point there is going to be a number 2 in front of the next Elder Scrolls, but I just don't know when that happens.
After Elder Scrolls 6, probably, I would think.
Yeah, more than likely. Yeah.
It'll be
and the next Fallout, I don't think is going to be Bethesda, folks. I think they're going to hand the reins over to Obsidian and let them make Fallout New Vegas 2, but that is just my personal opinion on it, because I really like it. It's my favorite Fallout of all time. And I'd love to see them bring it back. But VJ, listen, you've heard everyone, and of course, we love your bombastic takes, especially from your history within the industry. What are your thoughts? I mean, again, we don't know what Starfield is. We've seen some some dev docs. We've seen the opening, the CG. We know what one of the first companions in the robot is going to be. But do you see an MMO in the cards?
I think that from the outset, when Bethesda conceived Starfield, or perhaps any other project that they do, I think MMO would have been given serious consideration. If you haven't realized it, and I'm just construing some of the information from the panel, it seems to be that thus far it's in their design ethos, right? Not an entirely a shocking revelation. So thinking perhaps Starfield started life out as a potential MMO, or in fact the MMO portion, during development became a key facet besides the assumed single player game releasing later this year is fallacy for me. And the reason why I say that is, if you can get the concept and execution right, MMOs can be huge, especially in terms of financial rewarding, especially for an independent developer publisher. And that's exactly what Bethesda was back in 2015, 16, or whenever the work on Starfield began in earnest. And Todd and co would have been acutely aware of what works and what doesn't, given sort of previous endeavors, releases and feedback and so on and so forth, which I'm sure the panel's far more well versed than I am in the history of Bethesda and their ups and downs. Bethesda, for me, know what they specialize in and what they're creative and proficient at, and therefore know how to build a how can I put it, a long-term or protracted IP that spans a generation, and perhaps even two, when it comes to Starfield. And consequently, they should know, given their experience, Boom, how to preserve, how can I put it, support, advance, or spin off, and continue the lifespan of a potentially billion and a very key IP, right? And for them, it would have been $1 billion IP at least, right? For Microsoft, it's a $7 billion acquisition. So, and you only have to look at games like World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy 14. Sorry, I'm not that into MMO, so they're the only two that I know. And if in fact they are MMOs, so you'll have to correct me.
Those are big ones, especially Final Fantasy 14. Literally is printing money for Square. That literally is printing actual money for them.
And there you go, Boom. You've answered your own question to a degree. And at the end of the day, right? These games, as you say, Boom, either they did or they still do continue to produce the sort of guaranteed cash flow and revenues that allow and provide for stability and growth. Again, Bethesda was an independent studio at the time, right? And that in turn grants and empowers studios to embark on new creative endeavors, and in turn sort of allows for certain chosen projects to be cultivated, right? Depending on what the studio is passionate about, what they think they conceivably, will be really popular when it releases in 5 or 6 years' time. So we should take into consideration that also that modern day big budget games or movies are a gamble, i.e., they come with no guarantees of being received well or even being a success, right? And Indiana Jones, a seemingly sort of fairly large project and budget probably in tow, announced by Bethesda, is a case in point. I'm personally, and I'm being totally honest, I'm intrigued and apprehensive both in equal measure at the same time until I see more. So some of this should make you consider. Make you consider if there is a possibility of factual truth behind the thought or proposal that Skullzi has produced in his video, which, let's be clear here, he's put in a lot of time and energy, right? He's poured into it, and therefore, the possibility of Starfield MMO in the works, right? Simply, honestly speaking, I don't know, but possibilities for every studio, including Bethesda, who have more than most, are all on the table to varying degrees. And you only have to listen to what Skullzi said, right? You can sort of vaguely construe what he's saying, or in fact trying to sort of mercurially portray that tangent development of existing IPs or ongoing development of certain new IPs and consumer product licensing going forward is a big focus for Bethesda, especially in order sort of for any company. It's the best way to sort of have a big focus on that, and especially if you want to try to sort of weave yourself into the fabric of modern day pop culture, which is a very competitive landscape. So making a game and just marketing it as a game is not where it's all at the moment, and there's a far more benefits to have if you look at Sony and Nintendo and seeing like the huge intrinsic sort of synergistic benefits, right? Besides a game just making games, and the expansion of those divisions and the revenues from consumer product licensing that they're able to generate. So I don't, as I say, I don't personally play MMOs, so I'm not perturbed either way. In fact, I'm totally detached.
That's fine. I don't play them either, so I'm right there with you.
But what I do know is that the game Starfield is scheduled for a release on November 11th, 2022, right? Unless it's delayed, which is totally cool. I don't have an issue with that either. And everything else is by the by, what if, projected, alleged, and purported scenarios, etc. It's the nature of game development, right? To keep all your options open, right? And when you start to sort of couple the nature of game development is so risky, it's so unpredictable. When you start to couple that with belief and theorizing, it becomes an unwieldy beast, right? And in praxis, things don't always align sort of according to plan, conjecture, or theory. So I hope the truth, the facts, and the reality is not too far off, right? For us gamers, right? And therefore, the most important event is the eventual reveal of Starfield that hopefully helps us define what the game Starfield exactly is or isn't in its imminent release form and long-term objective, if Bethesda care to share on that matter. And besides being the sort of most important event in recent history for Bethesda, the most important thing for me as a gamer is that it's coming to Xbox and Game Pass, where I currently enjoy gaming.
Yeah, again, we come right back to Xbox Game Pass, but folks, that's going to do it for the Xbox Factor podcast this on your Tuesday. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we got to thank Skullzi once again for dropping some monster bombs live on the air, and hopefully you enjoyed it. And if you missed it, you missed some of the context to what he was talking about. This will be up on video on demand as soon as the show goes off air. So let's get to the outros, and we'll get everyone out of here so you can enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. And we'll start first with Skullzi. My brother, thanks again for being here. I want you to sell your brand. Tell them about Skullzi TV on YouTube, and where can people reach out to you on social media to strike up a conversation?
Yeah, for sure. As always, I love being here. You guys are awesome. Always fun to talk games. And yeah, if anyone is interested in Bethesda news or some of my investigations and stuff, I'm starting to talk about other things outside of Bethesda. But if you love Bethesda, if you want to hear a lot more about this kind of stuff, you can look me up on Skullzi TV on YouTube. I believe it's www.youtube.com/Skullzi. And then over on Twitter is where I post a lot of my theories and findings as well, at Skullzi TV. I love to talk with the community. I love to hear some of your theories as well. And hopefully I will see you all on the channel or on Twitter at least.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for being here, brother. Definitely appreciate it. We definitely got to get you back soon. Zemi Games, are you there, sir?
I am.
There you are. Listen,
Here I am.
Before we get you out of here, I want everyone to potentially flock over to Steam, flock over to Xbox, and to purchase Back to School to support you, folks. If you didn't know, Zemi Games, who was a panel member on Breakfast with Boom on the Xbox Factor podcast and reprised his role today, is also a game developer. That's right. Him and a buddy of his put a game out called Back to School. It is phenomenally done. It is educational. You can play with your kids. And I want you to get out there and support him. It's only $5, available right now on Steam and, of course, on Xbox Live. But I'll leave Zemi to tell you the rest about it. Zemi, you did some updates to it. Please, by all means, sell your brand. Tell them where they can reach out to you on social media. But more importantly, support Back to School.
You know, I'm just going to put my hands behind my head and just let you do my whole outro for me. No, that was phenomenal. No, absolutely. Yeah, Back to School. You guys can purchase it on Xbox or Steam. It's $4.99, and 10% of the profits are going to the National Center for Learning Disabilities, which is a organization that helps children, teens, and adults with learning disabilities. So it's 10% is going to a really good cause. And we have a bunch of accessibility features in the game as well, such as a text to speech. So for players that have issues with literacy with reading, that's a huge help to players like that. In addition, we also allow the player to change the in-game timer, the quiz timer, enabling them to turn off the timer completely if they want. So if education hasn't been your thing, just because just past experiences, maybe you have difficulties reading, or maybe you get really high anxiety whenever you're taking tests, have no fear. The game definitely has accessibility features for that. And I'm still working on achievements. More news will come out about that here in the next coming weeks or month. But yeah, Boom, it's been phenomenal show. I always love being on your shows, man. So thank you so much for sending out the invite. And hopefully I'll be back on here soon.
Absolutely, brother, and it's great to have you here. Josh64, I think you have a fan or a friend in the chat. Lady AF, thanks for being here, darling. Great to see you apart. She just did, I think she just did some monster hike over the weekend, where she showed her award on Twitter. Congratulations on doing that. I don't know how long it was, but it looked like it was a lot of fun. She's Josh, she's a friend of yours, brother, and she wanted to know about your take on the Xbox cart, and she missed it. And I think she can check that out definitely after the show goes live, because your takes were, as predicted, amazing. Please, by all means, brother, sell your brand. Tell them where they can fight with you on Mario Kart with 500 other people, and where can people check out your incredible YouTube channel.
Yeah, you guys, I do want to say a quick shout out to Lady. We met in the Destiny community like 8 years ago.
Wow. Okay,
like
cool.
So basically just through Xbox, is how we connected. So it's awesome. Very, very cool to see her in chat. And she did crush it this weekend. So yeah, I'm N64 Josh everywhere. And I do a once a month Smash Bros tournament. I don't know if there's any Smash players in the chat or that will listen to this after the fact, but you win $100 if you win the tournament. So
that's awesome. I suck at it. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm losing right in round one. I'm terrible at it. My nephew is really good.
Yeah. So I mean, we see it's high level gameplay. It really is, and this is something that I'm working to take to the next level, getting sponsors, and it's a monthly thing, and it's really a good time. So you guys can sign up for that at n64josh.com/smash. You have to sign up before Saturday at 3 p.m. Pacific, and we go live at 4 p.m. Other than that, I host the Nintendo Powercast and the Halo Infinite podcast. We do a community game night every other Thursday playing Halo, and it's a good time. I know the game is not in the best place right now, but you get we try to basically do an online LAN party is what we do every other Thursday, and it's a lot of fun. So thanks for, as always, Boom. It's an honor to be here. Thank you guys, everybody on the panel. You guys are amazing.
Dude, it's great to have you a part of the show once again. We missed you, and you always bring it 100, and we appreciate the knowledge that you bring. Mav, sell your brand, brother. Tell them about the one of 500 podcasts that not only do you produce, but you are a part of. And where can people subscribe to your growing YouTube channel, man? We got to get you past 5K, brother.
Yeah, man, we've been hovering around like 2,200 for a little while now. We'll get to 5K in 5 years. It'll happen.
No, that's too long. That's too long, brother. Let's
Too
get
long?
you that.
Okay.
You listen. The truth of the matter is, if you don't know who Mav is, shame on you. He puts out an incredible amount of content, but it's always great. It's always fun. It's curse free. It's facts. And at the end of the day, he brings the community together. So get out there and support him. If you're not supported, hashtag BoomStick approved. Sell your brand there, Mav.
Heck yeah, man. Appreciate it. Guys, check me out on Twitter, Fun Speculation. You can find all the updates for our channel and shows that we do on the channel, which you can find on YouTube, Fun Speculation as well. Xbox Ultimate Podcast. We're going to have our 86th episode this Friday. On Thursday, check out PM in the PM with my buddy Pong Soul. And hey, Skullzi, look out for a DM in the future, because Pong was very upset that he wasn't able to be here today for this episode. So we would love in the future to hopefully have you on an episode of PM in the PM, maybe closer to Starfield's release or something like that. And
Yeah, for sure.
Wednesdays is Fun Pop. We talk about Marvel, DC, Star Wars movies,
Halo,
games,
the
TV
Halo
shows.
episode
Halo.
5
Oh man, that last episode
fire.
was amazing, dude. Holy crap. And then Mondays, now we have FSP. So Fun Speculation Podcast is on Monday. So we just do lots of fun stuff on the channel, a lot of podcasts, a lot of game streams and everything. So come check it out, Fun Speculation.
Thank you, brother. Real quick, Echelon 7, The Light in the chat says, Double Barrel Gaming, hey, Boom, the Series X is currently available at Best Buy. Let your audience know if you want. And yes, folks, right now, Best Buy does in fact have Series X consoles in stock. So if you do not have one, get over there and get yourself one. Big shout out to Pragmatic Eagle. Dude, if I missed you in the chat, welcome to the program, brother. He's definitely been with me on this podcast ride for months and months and months. So I definitely appreciate you being here. And last and no way least, VJ, I know that you're not on a lot of podcasts. I know that you really don't do social media, but you still have a presence and a thumbprint on Twitter. Tell everyone where they could potentially reach out to you and strike up a conversation.
First of all, I just wanted to say hi to Skullzi. Thank you so much for being here on the show. It was a pleasure to meet you. And,
it was a great time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. And Boom, I think you said something earlier about not having a business degree, but I wanted to say you certainly have a doctorate in decency and common sense, which for me emphatically trumps the former. So
I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
So thanks for having me on the show. Hopefully I'll be okay for next week. And I just want to say thanks, Boom, panel and audience in the chat. Yeah, it was a great show and some fantastic topics. Yeah, I wasn't really sure what I was going to say, and I hope it was all right. So,
dude, you knocked it out of the park as always, brother. You always deliver. So, yeah, thanks for being here, brother. And we love having you each and every week. Folks, again, thank you so much for being here. Obviously, if you're finding the channel for the first time, we are on the hunt to 12K. We hit 10K to open up 2022, and that was big. Obviously, I've only been doing YouTube for 4 years, and to hit that mark in this short amount of time proves that I'm doing something right. And for me personally, I would love to hit 12K by the end of the year, and we're almost there. We are just about 1,400 subs away from 12K. That would really put the cherry on top of this Sunday for 2022 regarding podcasting and content creation, and of course Double Barrel Gaming. So if you're new and you enjoyed the conversation, consider hitting the subscribe button, and of course, before you get on out of here, hit that like button. And I have to say a big shout out to everyone that dropped the super chats. Mrs. Boomstick and I, we use those super chats to power the show. We do 4 monster giveaways per year. We just did one for Easter. We have one coming up for the 4th of July. We have one coming up in September. And the big one is going to be the biggest that we've ever done, closer to 1K giveaway for Christmas and the holiday season. And we do that through channel membership and, of course, through super chats. And I want to say a big thank you to everyone that continues to donate to the show. And, of course, I'm going to close out today's show with something that is important to me, folks. Hopefully, one day it'll be important to you. That's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he said, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, Craig. And I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. Uh-oh. Hold on. There we go.